join together. And then we'll do pledge allegiance.
Syracuse City Council business meeting and grateful for the opportunity to serve this fun city. Very hard for the guidance of the direction tonight. We might be able to serve the people and we're lucky to do our best for the city.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, make a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Yeah, let me just begin speak, or we note that Councilmember Brett Reagan is with us on Zoom, not able to be with us in person tonight. The first item on our agenda is public comment. This is a chance for citizens to come forward and bring forth things that are not on our agenda. It's not on our agenda, or comment on things that are on the agenda. Either way, we're not allowed to comment on things that are not on the agenda in response. But this is just for a chance to comment or bring up a topic with us. If there's anyone from the public that has a public comment, come forward now. Seeing none, I will defer. We did have one came in writing. Cassie, if you read that public comment for us to the record.
Yes, this is from Robert Kirk. He says, I write to raise a concern about the tsunami of new housing permits apparently still going on. That was my impression watching last week's City Planning Commission meeting when they appeared to approve 2 or 3 new housing developments. The many years of frenzy building has taken the city to the financial breaking point. So many newly arrived citizens requiring additional city services, severely straining the tax base. Let's slow down, take time to catch our breath. Nothing personal to any landowner or developer, but Syracuse needs a significant moratorium on all new permits. We need 5 years to hopefully eventually achieve better equilibrium with the additional businesses and taxes anticipated to fund growing needs for city services and maintain at least a modicum of open land. This would be a moratorium on any and all new planning commission applications. Let the word go out that Syracuse is taking a long pause in the hectic building spree of the past several years. Voter input, I'm confident polling current citizens would find overwhelming support for this moratorium. Respectfully, Robert.
Okay, thank you for that. We've got a closed public comments. I didn't see anyone. The next item on our business is approval of minutes. We have minutes from our business meeting on October 8th and our special redevelopment meeting on October 8th. We also have our council work session on October 22nd. Did anybody have any amendments or want to address any of that? So we approve the minutes.
That's great. We should approve the minutes as discussed.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Bye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I will also note at the beginning of this meeting that this is both a business meeting and our work session will follow, as we will not be holding the work session right before Thanksgiving. Item number 4, proposed ordinance 2024-28, comprehensively amending existing sections or adopting new sections of the Syracuse Municipal Code related to the position of assistant city manager. This is a new position of the city. For that, we need to adjust our code to allow for a title that has not been there previously, and that is the majority of what this is. If anybody has any discussion on this, please bring it forward now. Otherwise, I will take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2024-28, amending the existing sections or adopting new sections of the Syracuse Municipal Code, make a position of assistant city manager.
So moved. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. The next item number 5, proposed resolution R 24-41, appointing Steve Marshall as the Assistant City Manager for Syracuse City. It was my pleasure to make this recommendation. We had many applicants, and we had some good candidates. And Steve rose to the top and makes an excellent candidate for this job, and will serve us well. Is there any discussion on this item?
Mr. Steve, you are always my go-to guy for everything that has to do with inside City Hall, and I'm so happy that you not only were offered, but accepted this position. Congratulations.
I will note that there was a mistake on the offer letter. It being today's date and not Monday's date. It is tradition in the city that we start with the beginning of a payroll date, so his official appointment date will become Monday. With
It would be November 17th.
November 17th. Oh, it's okay, well, so if anybody would like to make that motion, with the amendment of the start date being November 7th.
I move that we approve proposed resolution R 24-41, appointing Steve Marshall as new Assistant City Manager for Syracuse City with that amendment as stated by the mayor.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations, Steve. We will be backfilling the position, so people in the city can watch for another announcement for the work that Steve had been doing. The next item, number 6, is request to be on the agenda from Utopia Fiber, and their annual update is Roger Timmerman with us. As he is absent, I will defer this item and we'll move on. Next is proposed resolution R 24-38, approving the acquisition of Utah Department of Transportation properties. These are properties that the city has made an exchange for freeway properties versus property. We do not have that benefits the city. This is a direct exchange. No money has changed hands, but they would like an official resolution, so we can add it to our agenda. Is there any further comment or discussion on this from the council? If not, I'll take a motion.
And move that we approve proposed resolution R 24-38 for the acquisition of Utah Department of Transportation properties.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Item number 8 is authorization or is to authorize surplus 4 police department vehicles. This has been reviewed in a work session. We have a few that are quite old, and it is in our best interest to replace vehicles at a slow pace, just so that you understand, anyone listening. It is our policy to replace a couple of vehicles at a time, so we have a long rotation of all the fleet in the city. And this is just part of that regular rotation as things go out after, presumably after 10 years of service. So sometimes 20 years, depending on the vehicle and the uses. Okay, so that is the question. Is there any discussion?
The only thing I've got on this one is recently there was some comments made in both public comment and online that the city always has the brand new vehicles and that we are wasting taxpayer dollars. Please note that there are a 1999 Pontiac Sunfire and everything else is at least, well, there is a 2015, so at least 9 years old. Several of us 12 years old, so we are getting good life out of our vehicles, and we are trying to be as good with the money as we can be.
That is absolutely accurate.
You know what, you know how I does that, I just offer them to get closer. I was gonna tell them, you just make them keep them clean.
And
Like, get closer and open the hood, they'll change your mind, I promise.
you take good care of you.
Okay, that's why they last so long, because they have to.
We do have a long lifespan of city vehicle. So, with that, I need a motion to authorize the surplus.
Move that we authorize the surplus of for police department vehicles.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 9 is authorize administration to execute water infrastructure project grant agreement with Utah Division of Water Resources for installation of secondary water meters. I think we've discussed this quite a bit in the work session and in the past, so I don't know if there's too much we need to say on this. Does anybody have any questions?
It's nice to see this.
I don't have any questions, but can we give a quick reminder that we are,
Obligated.
this is not something
Yes.
we are necessarily wanting to do, but we are obligated to do this by the state.
Right, so 3 years ago, there was legislation passed that required us to meter secondary water by law. We have been working on this for years. This will still take years to come. This is a great opportunity for us that we have been working on grants all along to cover the costs, because these costs were not covered by the state. It was just ordered that we take care of this project. With that, gave a hefty price tag. That first year, Robert and I were able to go down and secure a $10 million grant that still didn't cover all of this project. So we are doing this. We have people working in our city actively. I would also state to the public, because I get calls about this all the time, that this is an ongoing project. When they get to your area, they will be putting in a meter. It is required by state law, and it is not something that we notice every home every day. Leading up to the time, we can say, why didn't you do it sooner? Well, we have thousands and thousands of these to do. And so it is a slow process. If we haven't got to your neighborhood, we will. It is required by law. That's probably more than anybody wanted to know about subject. So can I get a motion?
I feel like we don't want to do as much as we don't want to see your department.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll go ahead and move that we authorize administration to execute a water infrastructure projects grant agreement with Utah Division of Resources for installation of secondary water meters.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 10 is authorized administration to award a contract for a secondary meter watering project number 2. I will ask Robert to come forward and describe just briefly what is involved in project number 2. Again, this is where we just break out sections for the grant mostly so that we can get covered from not our city taxpayer dollars what we can. But go ahead, Robert. Please describe project number 2.
Yes, so project number 2 for secondary metering is to install secondary meters in parts of our city, and we are planning on maximizing that $500,000 amount, grant amount. The nice thing with that grant is there's a zero match. We do not have to match any dollars to use it. So this is just putting that grant money to a lot of this is covering your, so there were 3 bids. Low bid was hydrovac excavation for $341,750. And so this is, and the area this is happening in the packet, much of it is Tuscany Meadows and Fremont Estates, Eagle Estates, and then we'll do some areas up by Rock Creek Park and as far as that. Grant money will take us. So, okay, that's what it is.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion?
Mayor, I think it might be good to also recognize publicly state representative was in the for supporting helping us get this grant.
Yes, that's a good point. This also came forward as a just from the state, our current representative, Gary Elizabeth, helped bring this to our attention that it was available, and we were able to secure that.
Thank you.
Now we're going to the motion.
I motion to approve, I motion that we approve to authorize administration for work on.
To, I drove that.
Standard.
Hey, do your ordinance.
Look at the company name.
Yes, onward.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 11, proposed ordinance 2024-29, amending the Syracuse Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 5, pertaining to imposition of civil penalties. Noah's here. Just remind the public what we are talking about tonight in revising the city.
Yes, I did the best I could to try to summarize what our discussion's been. You all wanted to put a requirement on the property owner to provide proof that a violation of the ordinance has been taken care of. So we've put another sentence in there that says that they'll be required to send sufficient.
And I do want to point out to council that there's been some ongoing discussion of other improvements with code enforcement, and this is not finished. But at this point in time, this adds to our code a method for speeding up the process of resolution. So this becomes an option that we can exercise. Any further discussion?
I think just have one question to bring up with changing it and putting the onus on the citizen to provide their proof. Does that change anything legally if we end up in court, if they provide it, if they're the ones providing the evidence and we're saying it's insufficient?
So if you're asking, is that a legal problem? The answer is no, it's not a legal problem. This is a civil or administrative citation, and we can't shift the burden of these kinds of events. In a criminal case, of course, you have a constitutional right to have the prosecution prove your guilt beyond reasonable doubt, but these are not criminal offenses.
Right.
And there is an appeal process that can go to a hearing officer, and then soon the hearing officer can say that, maybe the penalties, we don't charge a penalty if the picture is inaccurate.
That is correct.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to get a motion on item 2024-29.
Motion for ordinance 24-29, amending the Syracuse Municipal Code as discussed.
Second?
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 12, proposed ordinance 2024-30, amending Syracuse Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 40, pertaining to noise. This has been a very challenging ordinance to apply to our city, and we have been working on it for quite some time. This would be titled some amendments so that we can take and probably get resolution faster and more accurate as far as being able to address things in a timely manner. It has been a challenge a little bit that applying this to monitoring is difficult. But is there any more discussion you have on this? We want to resolve this.
I think these changes seem to address the concern brought forward. So I think do I think we're done with this? Probably not. But I do think this is address the loophole we found here.
As with anything, tell our citizens, if things don't work out right, bring it to our attention. City code is always a work in progress in order to administer the rights of citizens.
Very much.
So that all, I move that we set ordinance 24-30, Code Title 6, Chapter 40, pertaining to noise as outlined.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
So let's comment about that a little bit. Anything has to do with animal control. Animal control.
Right.
Start one.
Animal control.
Okay, fair enough. So I believe that our guest has arrived from item number 6. So I will recall item number 6 This is a request, we have the agenda for the Syracuse Fiber for annual update. Thank you.
Apologize for being late. I know. I want to share some stuff. So I'm connected right now, but maybe, I don't know, you don't even know that I am on connected to the Zoom.
It's all other section of our meeting, so you almost missed this entirely.
Well, it's all
Like
watching.
a pair of your chin.
All right, I'll just go and do it and I'll talk through it a little bit.
Good.
Anyways, appreciate you having us on your agenda. We'd like to get out and kind of give people an update on things. Obviously, you guys should be aware, but I'll give you a little bit of history. Just to recap that we entered into an agreement a few years ago, to do a fiber network around the city. We did analysis, surveys, a lot of discussions, and we did that. We financed the project, built the network. I'll send you the slide deck so you can see kind of the charts of this stuff, but the first areas of the city came online in August of 2022. And it kind of ramps up, and then the build out was completed in September 2023. And then that's where everyone in the city was able to get service, and we kind of saw people moving on gradually. Right now, we're at about 2,500 connections that are active, which is actually really good. When we first came and presented to you, there was a chart, and you'll have this, I'll send this over to you, which basically says, start a project in a couple of years to get this thing built, get customers, and then the debt service for financing kicks in. We actually don't need to have the customers by that date, because we had customers earlier before that. We accumulate revenue in earlier years, and then we just need to make sure we're kind of staying ahead of these. The good news, the report back to you today is we are ahead of schedule on our revenues. So, I'll demonstrate the chart.
With Dan, please.
So, I mean, subscribers obviously don't just show up the day we get them or when we expect them. So we have a nice little gradual line of what we get predicted, and we are ahead of that. So, some people get a little nervous and like, wait a second, you don't need to have like 3,500 customers. And it's really about revenue. We don't have as many customers as we need to be fully covering the debt service. But we are ahead of where we need to be by this time. And actually, because we're ahead, if our kind of glance at this and say, how much more time do we have? We actually have like 3 or 4 more years. Because we're ahead of schedule, that pushes out like how much the revenue we've had up to date can be applied to cover the shortfall for a period of time before we get to that break-even point. So the main method is actually this is a very successful project that's trending ahead where we need to be so that you never get a bill. And that's the goal here is we get a citywide fiber network, publicly owned system, choice, competition, people happy with the service. And if the city had to pay to make that happen, I would argue that it's worth it. But we really like it, we don't have to. And demand is such that people are voluntarily choosing this over other options, signing up, sticking with the service, and every month we're doing lots and lots of installations. We grow those subscriber numbers. People are leaving. As we continue to do this, we continue to expand our relationship with the school district, get more and more schools connected. We've been getting businesses. We've been connecting with city facilities, for your own purposes. You're getting advanced services from the city. And from our perspective, everything is going really well. Things have changed a little bit since we started. We had a 10 gig option that was like really, really expensive. People still wanted it, but we dropped that price significantly. So now we're talking $150 range. For 10 gig, which is the cheapest 10 gig service in the country. We have a new 2.5 gig offering. So it's a little bit we're talking about this. So we're kind of keeping up on the new technology and things come in. I still see most people picking 1 gigabit service. And that's the most popular option. The whole system is built with dedicated connections. We talked about that initially, and people are using more of our bandwidth. But the nice thing is when you have dedicated capacity, no one's seeing congestion. So you're getting those speeds like all the time. And they're on unlike other fiber systems that are on This is a shared architecture. I think it was one of the decisions of why you guys went with us instead of other options was because it's dedicated architecture versus shared system. So all those things are going really well, and it's about it other than a bunch of charts, which we will send you so you can see how the growth has gone and how the trends are all acting on. So
a lot of charts and tables.
So, one question that I just wanted to reiterate for the public, and when we answer this, is the city completely available for this?
I believe so. We consider it what we call substantially complete. And what that means is everywhere we can build to, we have. There are going to be some places where we just kind of sit waiting for response from an HOA or there's some obstacle to doing that. Where we can build, we can build, but my guess would be just like every other city we have, so there's usually a couple of pockets here and there that we just continue to work with, try to get into those areas of the city.
What percentage of the city has?
I'd say probably less than 3%, I guess. It's not a lot, and the fiber is built to the entrances of those, with sufficient capacity, we just need those agreements, that's HOA plan. Make it a little more difficult, we need to, we will work with them regularly, and the president's usually like, why can't we get this? And if anybody's out there saying, pull it, say, I can't get it. Talk to your HOA, they have an HOA, with the HOA saying, hey, we don't know what we're talking about, and they're gonna talk to us, we may be missing the right people or whatever, please help us to talk to the right people. We try to reach them from our perspective, but sometimes nothing works better than, I don't want to say angry residents, but excited residents, excited members of an HOA, telling that HOA, hey, please talk to me about this. And in the presentation, I'll screen PDF and forward that around. The last page that has all my contact information, which reach out directly to me, or I can forward it on to our marketing folks.
It's just really nice to be able to tell citizens that there is fiber available everywhere we can get to. And sometimes people say, what is the city going to do fiber? Well, it's not up to the city really, but it is available, and that's one of the reasons why I participate in this project. So, we'll continue to push out that message. It is available.
And for whatever reason, they're like, hey, I've been told I can get fiber, I'm in the city, or like, just if they're in the city, they can't get it. Like the website allows you to go there with your address and sign up. Sometimes the address data is messed up, or there's a formatting in the address, and some weird thing happens. Don't just give up. Please let me or someone on staff call in so we can figure out why, because everyone should be able to get it. If not, it might be one of those HOA things, but if they don't think there's a reason to not be able to get it, and they're in the city, or they should be able to get it. We're also doing, just haven't stopped growing, so we're staying very busy, coordinating with the city, as we develop their group, and gonna have the retrofit those in, not the retrofit, but just plan ahead and get in those. And so there's kind of an ongoing project. We'll always be here with you as the city grows. To make sure fiber gets in there, and sometimes that's been difficult with cities. You guys are great, so we just want to thank you for that cooperation. Allowing us to develop, approved, and get into those results. That's also a nice thing. It also helps us get more and more customers over time. So we basically say we need to get to this target of revenue, so that's part of it. That target never changes yet as the city grows. Just get more and more customers on the system. The long term, that is, we have an agreement, we have debts and stuff, and it's like, well, this would be great, if we do better than expected, we maybe retire those debts early, or reduce their cost of service, or combination of those things. So we do that collectively across all of our projects, but it's in everybody's best interest to, I think, really well on these projects.
Thanks very much. At this point, I'm going to move this on to our second public comment period. I will note at this point in time that we are in business in a combined meeting where we will have discussion items and work session items after this. We will not have a separate public comment period. So now is your chance. We're waiting to make the public comment. Is there anyone here that has a public comment? Seeing none, I will close our second public comment period. Now, before we leave our business meeting, I'm going to have mayor and council announcements. If there are some, I'll start with Jennifer.
I just wanted to take a second and touch on Syracuse being a hospitable city. I'd like to see Syracuse as a very hospitable city to people who are working here, people who are building here, things like that. But keep in mind, we do, and to address the comment about public meeting, we have been very vocal about how we are addressing development currently, housing development. It's very clear in some of our recent meetings, and people are more than welcome to go into the watch those. That being said, with our code enforcement changing and things like that, it's very important to be respectful of the folks who are being hospitable to you in their home. And Syracuse is our home. So as long as the people who are coming here on business stay respectful of that, we'll always be very hospitable towards them. Also, I'd like to thank Chief Hackman. Thank you for your Happy Veterans Day text message yesterday. We're the only one about one now. People tend to forget that. And I would like to thank all of our other city employees who are military veterans for their service to our country and their continued service to our city. That's all I have.
Shout out to all the people that decorated for Halloween. We had some amazing houses out there. I don't know how you guys do it or where you put it afterwards. But it is incredible, the skill that people have, the effort they go to really create something that is free to the public. I mean, these are the guys handing out giant candy bars, having scavenger hunts. My kids go to these things every year just because they're just such a great time. So thank you guys for being part of what makes the city great. And congratulations to all the winners of the decorating contest. Also shout out for a fantastic pumpkin walk. It was phenomenal, had a great time. Again, I really talented people in the city that can make pumpkins look like anything. So, yeah, shout out to all the people involved in any of those, many of the other Halloween activities. Another item that I wanted to briefly discuss is it is the 40-year anniversary of our waste management district. They are having an open house on November 15th, open to the public. They have specifically requested that city councils attend. At that, they'll be showing off our newly upgraded MRF. One of the interesting things that they've done is when it was originally built, it was designed as what they call a dirty MRF. So it was more geared around keeping garbage out and pulling out cycles than just covering up cycles. So we did an upgrade on this called a clean MRF. We have been able to improve our recovery rate on cardboard from 30 to 80%, which is on the first few weeks we've been running it, we've seen a 137% increase of cardboard, 280 tons to 665 tons of cardboard. We also added a new baling facility, our baling machine to try and recoup all of that. So recycling is alive and well. I recently had someone in the city come up to me and we were talking about recycling. He said, you know, I'm pretty sure no one recycles. They just dump all the same truck all over the landfill. I can assure you that is absolutely not true. And I invite all of you to, again, attend that open house. If you know where the MRF is, you just go just like the Pascal Force Base and take a left. And again, everyone's invited. I'll be sending out invites to many people as we get, and you're all ready to go check that out. Again, November 15th from 12 to 4. That's everything for me.
Oh, thanks. I just want to make a quick comment on one of the public comments that we had in regards to moratorium on building. I'm not aware of any moratoriums that we've put in place as a city council on building. I know that we take each development on the merits of that development, how it fits into our city, what are the advantages, disadvantages, et cetera. I think sometimes it's a little bit confusing, especially if you attend a planning commission meeting. There are some things that have been approved, you know, a long time in the past when they're just getting to the development stage and, you know, submitting plats and things like that to the planning commission, that they have to go through that process to begin building. And so that's a little bit of a process and it can take time. So some of the growth and things that you're seeing are on past developments that have already been approved. Also, keep in mind that the only time city council weighs in on land use is typically if there is a zone change. And so there are many developments that come about and are developed. If the zoning is already what they need it to be, it doesn't require a zone change. And as long as that developer or builder meets the requirements of that zone, essentially the planning commission is going to approve that because they have to. Otherwise, we'll end up in a lot of nasty lawsuits. So that's my 2 bits on.
And I think I
Okay. Councilman Brady, did you have anything you wanted to weigh in?
No, nothing for me. I do appreciate the accommodation tonight. I had a new hip put in a bit ago, and it's a little challenging for me to sit for any length of time. So thank you for letting me participate remotely.
Thank you for participating. I want to give a shout out to all the forward that added to our events. We had a jazz band come out and play at Pumpkin Box, which is in addition to services. They had a sweet concert, which again was another addition for some of the things that we have. And we appreciate all those free services that are just cultural enrichment that doesn't cost our citizens extra. So I want to give a shout out to the Candy House decorating contest, because in this year we had quite a few entries. They were kind of exciting. And there's winners were recognized. But I think that's been another addition to our pumpkin walk. It's just helped it grow and improve. So thank you to all of those. We had just recently closed the Ivan Nemo Jr. from the Arts Council. Which is just this weekend, and what a cute show that was. And thank our city for putting that on and giving all those kids a chance to perform. We do enjoy those things. I think that's all that I have at this time. So I'm going to move us on to our discussion or work session items. No action will be taken on these items. These are discussion only. We'll remain here to conclude those items. Usually when we're in chambers, there are action items. The first one is discussion item A, which is review the winter parking regulations. I think it's a great time to review what those regulations are and whether they're appropriate. Again, this is not an action item, it's something for discussion as the winter season seems to be approaching rapidly today. So, Chief, if you'd like to come forward, and you had some comments, we'll start there.
Mayor Council, so I was just, I sent you a packet, memo with this, basically gave you some historical reference on our code, gave you some information from surrounding cities from, Davis and Weaver County for comparison, and then gave you a couple maybe studies or just pieces of information that maybe you could glean some important stuff from to be able to move forward and analyze that. So, I mean, I don't have anything else to give you other than what's in the packet, but if you have questions about any other one, certainly.
Thank you for your Council. Council, if you'd like to start.
I'm gonna ask a question to Mr. Robert too, so everyone's actually very used to that.
Okay.
So, good morning. Thank you, sir. Sorry to be on spot. I looking at what the chief provided on here, the times during snow or times when streets need to be cleared from what the cities look like. And the ones that have a set date range that have a specific time frames on them, a lot of them that have the set date range, I think it's like 10 of them are during times when the streets need to be cleared of snow. And the other 13 are a set date range. I feel like they're, most of the date ranges are more reasonable on that. But Mr. Robert, can you give us a breakdown of how your guys get go into when they're ready to go from start to finish, timeframes wise, like when it's snowing? When they usually get notified by Pete, right, that it's about to snow, so the snowplow guys get ready to go?
You're asking how long it takes to plow?
Yeah, like when do they normally get started when it snows? Like in the evening time?
When the snow starts. So I mean, sometimes like during the day, sometimes at night. Oftentimes it is middle of night, 2 a.m. or something, but it's just whenever the snow gets started, we start mobilizing the snow plows.
So I feel like the time frames that we put on here, like midnight to 6 a.m. or midnight to 9 a.m. is kind of irrelevant if the snow starts snowing at noon. Right?
That actually is true. I mean,
Yeah.
ours has the time frame and then has the caveat that says, or during any other time when snow removal is necessary.
Yeah, and so if it has, I feel like if it's during that time frame, yeah, at nighttime, but this doesn't even address the daytime. If it starts snowing at noon and we got a foot of snow by 4 p.m. and we're coming home, you can't,
We don't.
you don't address that in here at all. So then I feel like I have.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting, maybe you can do that right. The caveat piece that says, so it would be automatic a parking violation during those times that are identified, whether or not it's snowing. But then the second part of the ordinance is whenever snow is accumulating or needs to be plowed, and that's outside of those timeframes. So when you're saying 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's that second part that gets enacted.
Okay, so, and we have a lot of complaints about the citizens that certain roads don't get plowed, and I know it's an order, and I feel like as much as our city's grown, with the manpower that we currently have, what is the likelihood of our, like our cul-de-sacs and low traffic roads getting plowed in the city during the day? Or during snow times, because I know we focus mainly on the main roads and the artery roads and things like that, correct?
Right, our snow removal policy doesn't require every road or storm, it's based on inches of accumulated snow. We mobilize, well, policy says we can mobilize when it's 4 inches or greater. We end up mobilizing.
Right.
This at all.
Totally.
We mobilize when there's snow beginning on the road, and we prioritize the snow removal on mains. So mains are roads that are 35, 40 miles an hour, those higher speeds for city streets. Those get cleared, first priority. And then when our practice has been when snow road, now this is road snow, not snow on the grass or on the car, right? When road snow gets to about 2 inches, then we go into subdivision mains, and then 3 inches we go into feeders, and 4 inches is all streets. So that's our priority order, and I have a record of every time we plowed every single road in the city. It's not, we don't plow every road, every storm. Oftentimes the temperatures get ahead of us, and the solar activity works the melt, works into melt snow faster than our plows can remove. If we do a full-on snow plow job citywide, it's typically a 16-hour job for all plow drivers.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking you that is because this whole topic is about parking on the street because of snow plows coming through. So if the last portion that they get to was lower speed limit residential areas, and those are the things that we're addressing right now, I feel like that's something we need to take into consideration on what we tell people they can and cannot do where they park their cars if the snowplow may not be dead down. And in some places it usually doesn't. I think just once last year, it hit the cul-de-sac in my neighborhood, not just keep the snow pushed forward to that power fence line.
I would ask, legal to weigh in at this point, because I don't know that we could make separate rules for separate streets.
No, well, so mine is actually slightly different than that, but
Okay.
I mean, sure, if you want to ask him.
I think what Jennifer is proposing is to do away with from 11 p.m. till 6 a.m. thing in the morning and just say, can't park your car on the streets when snow removal is necessary, am I right about that?
Yeah, I feel like after what the chief offered us and what Mr. Robert just offered us, that would be probably the most logical thing, because if you're just doing it while it's snowing, planning for it while it's snowing, then by all means, get the people, by all means, and if you see clouds in the sky, it's no brainer. Even if you think my house smells like snow, so in your car. But if they're not on the road, when it's not snowing, is that a problem for anybody?
It's not for the code. If it's not snowing, so if it's not snowing, it's not a problem.
So the challenge,
That's,
but I think the challenge with that is not everyone comes home at the end of the day and checks the forecast to say, is it gonna snow or not? I don't know. That means everyone's got to check the forecast every single night when they park on the street. And then if it snows overnight and then they're in violation, they don't know. And it's hard for anyone to enforce it, to say, I mean, even though it's easy to enforce, say, well, you got snow in the car, obviously you're violated. But most times it's an accident, they're like, I don't know, I don't check the weather. And so it's hard to enforce. And on top of that, oftentimes you have the police working on accidents, not ticketing, so we don't really get the enforcement. When you go to the day check, they're programming people to find places to park their vehicles, and then it's a little easier enforcement,
So for me, one of the big things is winter driving is hard.
Yeah.
And so, especially at night, as the temperature drops, you start getting icy conditions. I have a road by us that, for one, on a good day, a good summer day, if two cars are parked on opposite sides of the road, it is difficult to navigate between them. So usually I'll have one car waiting over here while the other one drives through and the other car drives. So sure, maybe that road's not designed great, but the problem begins is, let's say those cars don't move and it snows and the snow plows goes around them. Now that's even narrower. I have teenagers that are not used to winter driving, and as they're trying to hit brakes and everything like that, cars are just, I don't know what it is, but cars seem to drift towards each other.
Okay.
So hold on. So for me, winter driving is, yes, I'm definitely concerned about the safety of the snowplow drivers and snow removal, but also just the idea of at night, it is harder to drive in the winter because of those icy conditions. You oftentimes have fog, which reduce visibility. You can't stop as fast. You don't have the reaction time that you normally would have. So winter driving, while yes, the snow plows are the priority to keep the roads clear for everybody. And it's also about keeping things safe. There's also a liability aspect to the city as our snowplow drivers are driving through. If they hit one of those cars, now we have to pay for not only our car, but we're now out of snowplow. I think this is the best way to do it so that we don't have those, oops, I left my car out in accident situations.
It's a vendor crossing for you.
So I went after the mayor, to be clear.
So with that, the main thing I brought up about this is the poverty situation of it, because we're aware that's going on right now. This is not just our city, every city. This is what's going on in society at the moment. And like the mayor said earlier, we adjust code. It's basically a living thing. We adjust it as we need it, as things change in our city, and as things change along society. I would like to know the people that live next to me, they have other places to park their cars. And one of the things that we put in here was how people parking on their front yard. I don't think that is a great idea, but I feel like if we don't have anywhere else to park, we're gonna have to figure that out, because the poverty situation is a very real thing. Right? People are crammed in houses together, and I can give you an example. I'm so sorry to do this, but we have a law enforcement officer who has adult children who all drive, So they all have their own vehicles. They all leave for work at different times. He has his own vehicle. He's his police vehicle at the PD because it can't fit there. His wife drives. They have a roommate. He also has a vehicle. Are we gonna ask him to ticket other people for the same situation he's in? I feel like it's one of those things that people are in these situations and we're not taking a moment to look at the entirety of it and how it is affecting them. If you're gonna ticket people because they have nowhere else to park, because there's too many people in their household to park anywhere but on the road, then you're just basically making it people for a fee and they can't afford that fee.
So I was curious about that. So, again, apologies for Sunset, but Sunset is generally has lower income.
Austin as well, at least.
And so I looked at Sunset and they have the same thing as we do. They went with the same, it is illegal to park overnight.
But their citizens also complain the same amount of times.
You know this?
Yeah, now on their local website, they just want to say,
Oh, are you?
oh, no.
Okay.
So here's my question. So we recently had on 2700, we recently had a lane realignment where people previously had parking on the street. And now because of traffic increase and traffic patterns, that on-street parking went away because of the way the lines were painted. So if they're parking on the street now, they are in a lane of traffic where before they were not. So there's all sorts of circumstances where someone might have parking on the street and then that might go away. I guess my issue with, I don't know that it's the city's responsibility to provide parking for its citizens. I don't think that's one of our directives as a city. I don't think that's our responsibility.
I'd like to weigh in on that, and that is that we are always conscious that every development and every new home has to have adequate parking for a reasonable residence that is built. If you have a situation where you have many more vehicles than you have parking for, it is the obligation of the homeowner to figure out how you can legally park. And I have people in my neighborhood who have many family members with them, and they had to pay part of their yard to become parking because that's a requirement. They know that they can't park where it impedes others, and that would be the street. So, yeah, they increase their parking, and that's part of it. And that's why I think our zoning always addresses what size of home could logically need 2 cars, 3 cars, does it need driveway as well as cars? That's part of our building code, and I think that there's a reason for that. We don't, that's part of solving the problem. So if you exceed your parking ability of your dwelling, you need to figure out a way to solve that. And I don't think that's unreasonable.
I agree. I think that the date range helps the majority of people stay compliant, because you want to have that set up and clear. And that it also, it's less likely for safety complications if people know and they're aware of what's expected of them. And also, I think Jennifer, when you said, what we cannot do with them. Truly can't do it. I know that's not our responsibility, that we lose responsibility to just not maybe willingly tickets, but just actually find out what's going on.
I love the humanism in that. I mean, that's a big deal. I think the humanism and a lot that we do is lost. And our officers and our code enforcement, they do the best they can with that. And I think a lot of people that complain fail to recognize the humanism in it also. And I think if people would just take a second to be understanding of their neighbor and maybe just offer a little help, we could fix this. But this day and age, that's just not how things are working, unfortunately.
Now, one of the things that Jen did bring up was, they said, you mentioned some of them more reasonable, would like February. I guess I don't have a huge, I'd be curious to see how often we drop below freezing in March or in May. I could look at moving in February if that's helpful.
So January is a thaw month, February is snow month, and towards the end as well, and here. Towards the end of February can be a heavy snow time, middle to end of February, because our mountains get past. It's like the first week of March. So safely, if we're going to adjust the date, I think we need to December would be more ideal first, and then to lock it to March first, because otherwise we're just not keeping it a safe bracket range.
I have data on temperature data, snowfall data, if you're interested.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so last year, we hit below freezing, mid-November. I don't have the exact date, but our first snowfall was November 22nd of 22. And then we ended, or excuse me, this isn't that 2023 snow year. November 22nd, 22, this first snowfall. Last snowfall was April 7th, 23, and freezing temperatures stayed until the last day was April 15th, believe it or not.
I'm almost waiting for you to push up.
And then,
So is that snow days that our snow plows went out, or is that just?
so yes, that was snow days. And so yeah, from the 2023 year was from November 22nd to April 7th. In 2024, so this last year, the first day of snowfall was December 1st, and the last day of snowfall was March 8th. The last freezing temperature was March 16th. So that was last year.
I mean, it does vary, but I think that the fact that we don't, particularly when we don't need to plow, kind of catches everything. And the reason for the wider needs is to enable us to enforce the necessary.
I mean, that is not necessarily accurate. We have an ordinance that says it is illegal to park between those months, between those hours. That is automatic.
Okay.
So as far as, and when I say automatic, what I mean is you're automatically in violation. I don't mean to imply that you're automatically going to get a citation.
Right.
But once you hit those check marks, that's automatic.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter whether, Robert has data, which, I mean, we all know the last 2 winters have been awful.
Yeah.
Let's go 5 winters before that and realize we went weeks and months with that stuff.
Right.
I've got that data too.
No, I'm just saying, it's empirical. I mean, we know what we're talking about. I mean, it's absolutely true. The last 2 winters have been rough.
Mayor, a couple other items to cover and to address on the liability issue. When we have an ordinance, no matter where the ordinance ends up, and someone's parked illegally and a snowplow hits that truck or hits that car, damages the car, anyway. I think our liability is reduced, and that risk is greatly reduced because of the ordinance. If someone submits a claim that was injured during snow plowing and they were parked illegally, we can just deny that. Because they shouldn't have been there in the first place. But as far as other options to address Councilwoman Carver's concern, there is in Chief Atkins' research, some cities allow parking in the front yard, which I know can be difficult in snow, but it has to be frozen, earth, and it's a solid surface that can hold a vehicle. And that is an option that you can consider.
So you wouldn't like their lawn come spring.
Yeah, mine just happened to be correct, I would not. But what Mr. Roberts said earlier about people not checking the weather, that was what I was trying to finish up with, was that I don't think it's unreasonable for 3 months to ask people to just be conscientious of the weather. If we can be conscientious of that, and we cannot have the liability of it, and I don't think it's lost ask.
Okay, so I'm not hearing the general consensus to modify these regulations. That's, I think we're aware, we've got more data, we've talked about it. Unless somebody would like us to address a modification by majority, I think we're gonna leave this issue for the year.
It's very disappointing. I feel like ours is one of the most strict on this, on their, all
Don't feel like it has that support, so I'm gonna move forward. The next item we're going to discuss is continued discussion regarding recycling rollout. This is really about putting our own recycling program in place. We were notified, and just as a quick recap, we were told years ago that all recycling was happening whether you put it in a recycling can or not. And for years, I know that both myself and Councilman Savage were evangelizing the fact that we were all recycling whether we wanted to or not, because that's what we were told. We became aware that that was not the case, and that they are not actually recycling everything that goes into the regular waste. And there has been discussion at the level of the district, how we enable more recycling. And certainly as a city, we want to make sure that recycling is an option. And so that's why we're talking about a program. We have kind of come up with the parameters of a program. We will sometime this year get that fully established. This discussion is really about how we implement it. We're not going back to revisit the program. How do we get it active and working? So that I will. Who covers this? I'm going to leave for Steve to start this discussion and then let everyone weigh in.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to go through these very quickly. I imagine that you guys have reviewed the packet. So, and from our last discussion in September, we kind of went through some options on recycling. The first item here is talk about can ownership. I think we're all in agreement. We want the city to own the cans. Second item, proposed frequency is every other week, bi-weekly, which is pretty standard with recycling realm. Third option, or third bullet point is a bundled service. So in September, we discussed the different options. The council did weigh in and say that bundled service is the way we want to go. And what that means is that every home that's eligible, and I'll get to this in a minute, will be delivered a blue can, and will be bundled one service fee for black and blue cans. We did also talk about green waste not being in that bundle, but we do want to promote that program further. Townhomes and some of the more compact developments, we went through, and Robert and I went through and looked at some detail, and Robert was able to put together a complete list of townhomes that we identified that would be problematic to do a bundled service on. What I mean by that is we're talking about townhomes that have 3 or more connected units, or the shared 3 or more units that share a private driveway. We identified about 800 of those units citywide, that we don't feel like we want to do a bundled service. However, we do feel that we still offer it if the residents wanted to try it. And some of these developments are so tight that we can barely put one black can for the garbage or for the garage doors. So our recommendation is to not make those units bundled, but give them an option for recycling. Out of the 10,000 units that we have approximately in the city, that would leave us about 9,200 units that would go to bundled service. Commercial and apartment operations, those would be exempt out. I think there'd be further discussion in the future with Wasatch agreed on how that would roll out, what that would look like. But for the city standpoint, we don't typically deliver garbage services to commercial. We talked about the grant opportunity with the bundled service. We would get $15 back per can on this recycling partnership. And that would be facilitated through Wasatch and Release. Hardship policy is one we kind of left last time. I gave an example in the packet. And this is something we could do. It's totally optional with council. I just pulled the heat program requirements, 150% poverty level based on household size. So if we had a hardship policy that said, hey, this resident wants to apply, they can't afford it, we would go off of a friend or something like this. We'd have to look at their income and see if they fell in the lowest 150% poverty level. I don't know what council's thoughts are on that. If there is a hardship policy, that we have somebody to measure. And I think that would probably be the most efficient way to do it. And if you guys want to jump in at any time and talk about these, don't, Mayor, feel free to do so.
So
The heat program is actually a standard use across a lot of social services. They're poverty standard. So, things like Head Start, stuff like that, uses the heat program standard. So it's a really good standard to go on.
So I just had a question or discussion point, I guess, regarding exempting townhomes. Because I guess part of the reason we're doing this, obviously to extend the life of the landfill, but also is to receive reduced rates. So why are we taking up a portion of the population and exempting them? Because we're gonna, essentially, we are not giving other citizens choice. If you want garbage service, you take recycling. And just, it gives me a little bit of heartache saying we're going to exempt a certain population.
So the district actually recommends for those instances that you provide an opt-out. But you plan on giving them a can. And if for some reason they cannot wedge it in, if they have to choose between a car in there or a recycling can in their garage, sure. But that would be the district stance, is that you go with opt-out program and have them come and say why they can't have it. So then they
Get
can
it off and dumpster for the parking lot.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to just know that until just a few years ago, we had architectural standards that required the garage to be less than 50% of the frontage of your home, which would give extra room for kids. And until recently, we also required some room for parking and access so that we would have room towards the side of the house. So I'm going to point out, Council, is the more we erode our standards for buffer zones between houses and frontage that is usable in front of your house, the more we limit other things. They were well thought out programs that long before I was here were in place for a reason.
I feel like I'm with Paul on whatever this is right here about this, so you got my support on this.
Well, I'm just saying,
I'm here for it.
I'm just saying, if I can't opt out, or I have to have recycling, and other citizens do, why is this one group, just because it might be more challenging for them?
Did you recently allow them to build smaller?
Well, to be clear, on my house, I have a garbage can site, and I actually have two cans. I'll replace one of them soon, hopefully. And I have the black can in front, the blue can right behind, and luckily, you can go too deep.
Yeah.
Can we put this on the
Physics
HOA?
allows it.
Can we put this on the HOAs to get their fee thing going to require like recycling dumpsters?
Well, how do you split up that fee now?
I don't know, people pay HOA fees and we just kind of
But that's,
divide
that
that.
becomes, but then
Steve
that
does that,
becomes,
I'm not.
then that becomes like then they have to get their own service for it, so.
We'll be digging into this shortly. I'm sure we'll probably have some data.
It's just included though.
But so I feel like we probably should have that's an opt-out, if not just treat everybody the same. I understand that people living in slightly different circumstances. There's a reason for building standards that we've always followed, and these are some of those reasons that everybody, has to provide themselves a way to accept city services. We wouldn't change if somebody said, well, I can't have secondary water because there's not enough room in my yard for an extra meter box. We don't allow that. It's something that if you have a yard, you have to have it available. You don't have to use it, but it has to be available. Same thing with other city services. We just heard from Utopia. It is available, whether you choose to use it or not. And I've heard from people, don't put we didn't want you to come through our yard or down our street because we won't use it. Doesn't matter. You won't always be the homeowner. The next homeowner might choose to use this. And so we have to make it available. thing for choice.
One thing to add in here is, as we get more people participating, as Paul pointed out, it does reduce the rate the city is charged. We base our rates based on what we're being billed. This will be extended directly to our citizens. This makes the service more efficient and therefore cheaper. For everyone. The other item here, there's one thing that, I thought I saw this already. One of the items that's talked about technology of the cans. The RFID.
What is that?
RFID is a.
No, it's a chip that you identify, the idea is identifying chip.
You know, when you walk out of the store and all the alarms go off,
That's because of an
there's
RFID.
RFID in it.
That is another thing is to add.
So they are not required, and so we don't need to get cans with that, so that'll make our cans a little cheaper. The other item on this is if we needed to, do any financing, we have found out that the Close the Loop Partnership is providing below market loans if the city is interested to further facilitate our recycling community. So we just found out about that probably a month ago. That's what I found out. And so that's another thing to help smooth out the rollout of recycling in our community.
Mayor, could I add something on the RFID?
Yeah,
So the RFID, if I'm not mistaken, they're also geo-locatable.
yes.
So the purpose of the RFID is asset management. You know, there's gonna be over 10,000 of these things floating out there. Currently, there, you know, if someone calls and says, after that windstorm, I don't know where my can is, nobody can find it, we issue them a new can. So we do have, we don't know how many, we know that there are cans floating out in the city, but we don't know where they are. The RFID helps, track and keep track of our assets.
So this is like the I lost my iPhone situation, like if I hear a trash, how often does a trash can get lost? And who's stealing trash cans?
It does happen.
Like, is this a regular occurrence?
Yeah.
Is this like I mean, I see the guys driving with these trash cans all the time, I think it's community service, and I didn't realize the trash can theft or loss was a serious situation.
And to be clear, one of the things that is required today, it does need to be a city branded trash can.
And
Please, will know what city it belongs to.
to be fair, RFID checks cost next to nothing.
15, what is it?
They're petty.
They're pennies, yeah.
I feel like the bar that we have set for society is so low right now. It needs to be better as humans. The stuff that is trash cans. This is okay. We're getting, I have trash machine in my horse, we don't even use it, we're using trash cans.
Yes,
They're crazy. Totally into that.
okay, but for pennies, it can, I think it actually does make sense because it really is,
I'm just saying they're not required to get the
that's fine.
$15 paid.
It's just that it will help us save money on replacing cans. So I think it's well worth the small investment. Anyway,
So can I ask, is this the same thing like the lemon scooters that they said would be picked up? Like, are it the same type of finding thing? Like, because how do you find it?
Yes. RFID you only find if you drive by it. There's not a GPS sending beeps out to the city.
Yeah, you have to scan, actual can, and it'll give you a lap on where it's supposed to.
So if it's blocked, then
It's
it's lost,
Yeah.
right?
If you drive by a ditch and and you see something down and you scan it, you're like, oh, this is from such and such place.
Or if the,
Like you just add back to the stop.
Do that too.
or it can be in front of someone else's house, you know, maybe they're.
Neighborhood.
Or the windstorms, all the neighbor,
Okay.
all the cans went out.
Community, this whole scenario, you can lost in that. I'm sorry.
I mean, if the RFID has a benefit, if the benefits outweigh the cost.
Okay,
I don't want to allow an exemption for people to live in townhomes, but I would be okay with an exemption for low income.
and I
That's
think
what I
it's
see.
slowing for the selling exemption, it's exemption of cost.
Yeah.
We still got the use.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect standard to go off. It's very widely used, so it's going to do all of that.
Julie, you want to,
Oh, I just think the bundled service across the whole city is what we should do.
I
Um,
Even better.
that there should not be locked out, and people will find a way.
So, just for everybody's information, this is not like rolling out next week. We are gonna put some more time into this. We want to make sure we get it right. So we'll probably see it on another agenda. We're not trying to beat it to death, but at this point, I think we've had the production that we can in this meeting, so to end this discussion. One other item. Oh, yeah. So one other item before we adjourn, I will let you know that, there have been ongoing meetings that we've all been invited to, whether you noticed them or not, for the Wasatch Front Regional, Council's traffic development. This is a long-term plan. It will be meeting tomorrow in our city. Now, it is met other places in the rec center, so you're welcome to come. I can tell you I've been to many of these. It's not like don't hold your breath for excitement. They're kind of long, and it's really more of a roundtable discussion on future traffic, and it's just feedback. You're not making any core decisions, but I would encourage you all to go.
Okay, also generally cover, active transportation as well.
They do.
Trails.
Yes, so there'll be trail discussions, there will be road discussions, there will be future program discussions, and even mass transit discussions.
Will there be safety discussions?
There usually are not, but anyway, it's
OSHA over here.
it's not us, it's the Wasatch Regional Front Council that they have not been here in a long time. So the fact that they're coming to our city, is making you aware, good opportunity to participate. I will see anyone there if you attend. Yeah, great. But like I said, don't expect like too much excitement. It's not excitement generators. Other than that, I would, since this is a combined meeting and not just a work session, I will take a motion to. So moved. Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.
This is hot topics that we did before 7:30.
Oh, topic, not one topic.
We're very detailed.
Congratulations, Steve.
Okay, I have a question for you. So with 1,000 being out of service right now, the next street up. What's the next street up? The east.